everybody. I know. Like, you don't even have to tell me. Look, the break wasn't supposed to be 2 months. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks. But look, it ended up being what it is. And I'm just glad to be back. But thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Everything Grows. This is the second to last episode in season one. Next week's episode is going to be more of like a reflective episode that'll kind of encapsulate all the episodes of Everything Grows for 2022. Really thankful for the whole experience. It's been a lot of fun. So today's episode is about growing in forgiveness, and I've contemplated if talking about this was even necessary for me. But given that I've been growing, right, and discussing my growth with you guys, I felt it was necessary to touch on forgiveness and how we can forgive ourselves for the mistakes we've made in the past, how our mistakes don't have to define who we are today. I have not always been kind to myself. I still find myself having to correct the way I speak to myself because I'm like, you know what, Faith, you're so dumb for doing this or saying that. And that all could have stemmed from my history with social anxiety. And this is something that I really have to pray about and work through because I do not want to fault myself for being human. I don't want to. I feel like there's two sides to the concept of mistakes. I feel that mistakes are things that we partake in, right? And sometimes we know it's wrong to do, but we do it anyway. But then there's the other side of it where it's really just a hiccup in the road, a crack in the road. And sometimes we don't even know better. But it's really the course that you take after the fact that matters most. Either you can choose to learn from your mistakes or you can let them continue to drag you down for the rest of your life. And who wants to feel sorry for themselves and the mistakes that they've made? I commend a lot of people out there who've taken the time to learn from their mistakes, who decided, hey, you know what? I can't be this way because not only is it hurting me, it's hurting my loved ones. It's hurting the people that genuinely want me to be okay, the people that genuinely care for me. It's important for us to recognize that. There's a Bible verse that always gets me. It's 2 Corinthians 5:17 through 18, and it says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Do you know how hard it is for us to believe that the old has passed away when we're constantly in doubt about who we are, about what we've done? We don't recognize that there is a new day. We wake up each morning and we have the ability to change how we go through life. And when it comes to the issues that we have with friends, with family, with life in general, sometimes we're not even moving through life to let go. We're moving through life to rather be right all the time. And I think that pride is always going to be challenged by the need to forgive. Forgiveness challenges pride in many ways. I think that there are two people who know they need to reconcile and they don't because they have so much pride. Their ego has gotten the best of their ability to see the light, and you don't want that to happen, right? I've had many instances in my life where I let pride keep me from actually having a regular adult conversation with somebody. We as adults, we are able to see right from wrong. But it's hard to really act on that, right? Because we don't want to make it seem like we're weak. But there's nothing weak about doing the right thing. Okay, everyone. So I'm doing this segment, and this is like a test trial, but I'm doing this segment, this 2 minute segment, where I talk about random things. So I may be incorporating this into season two. We're not quite sure yet. We'll figure it out along the way. But anyway, today I wanted to talk about bleaching my hair a couple days ago and how that was like the best decision of my life. Yes, it was. Okay, so before that, I had gotten like highlights, but I didn't know if I really liked it like that. I feel like it didn't fit my skin tone, and also I was like, I want more. So I went back and then I ended up dyeing my whole head. So half of my head is like blonde. I think the top layer is blonde, and the lower layer is like an ombre, like a ginger red ombre. I don't know, but it's so cute, and I'm really excited to style it because it's just gonna up my personality like by 10. Yeah, I showed my grandmother, and she was like, "Girl, your hair looks so good. It looks like it came out from your scalp." And I was like, "Yeah, cause it did." No, but she was really talking about the color. She was like, "It looks so natural," which I really wanted because I wanted something that looked natural and flowed. But I'm just really, really excited for this new change. I've been like putting myself into a box my whole life, and I really thought I had to hold on to this reputation. But honestly, I'm so sick and tired of that. I want to start living for me, and what better way to do that than changing up my look for the first time? It's liberating. So, my encouragement to anyone who hasn't quite changed up their look for fear of judgment, do it. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? This life that we live is not for people, it's for us. So, yeah, that's what I had to say. Let's get right back into the episode. It's human nature to think that the other person who wronged us deserves to feel guilty for the rest of their life. And it's also human nature to say we're unbothered, that we don't care. But clearly we do, because we're still having those negative feelings towards the other person. And people think that if you forgive somebody, that means you're letting them off the hook, when really you're just letting go. More so for you, not for the other person. Forgiveness leads to compassion and empathy. And I think instances where I've had to work on forgiving somebody, it ended up being in my favor more than the other person because I was able to lend my heart, my empathy to this other person and let them know, hey, you know what? I really don't appreciate what you did, but I do accept your apology. And here's another thing about apologies: we're not going to get many of them in life. There are going to be times where people are going to wrong you, and it's your choice if you want to hold on to that or not. If someone says something mean to you, if someone just downright lies on you, it's not your job to prove to them that they are wrong. It's not your job. You have to live in your truth, of course, but it's also the steps that you take to be at peace with yourself. And that takes a lot of work. There was an instance where I had two choices. I could have forgiven this person, shown them compassion, or I could have held on to that hurt, that pain, that negativity, and let it drag me down. I'm a very sensitive person and I hold on to things a lot. So I had to pray about it. And I had to ask God, like, how can I not make this a weakness? How can I look at it and looking at from a place of strength? And God just told me, you need to just forgive. You need to understand that though this person is not perfect, they do need your compassion. And that doesn't mean you're letting them off the hook at all. So I ended up talking with this person, and after that whole thing was done with, it felt really good to get it off my chest. And it also felt good to have a human to human connection with somebody who was going through something at the time. On the other hand, we need to hold ourselves accountable. Absolutely, we do. Because there are times when you will be wrong, straight up just wrong, loud and wrong, loud and wrong. And you're going to have to figure out how to go about that. Like, how do you show up for yourself when you are the one in the wrong? I think it's all by actions. It's not more so by words. I think some people are willing to believe you if they know you really, really well, but there are going to be times when you're just going to have to show up for yourself and actually hold yourself accountable for the wrong that you've done to this person. This was me like 2 years ago. There was a time when I really just messed up, and I wanted to reconcile with this person on my terms, and that's not really how things are done. If you're gonna force somebody to, accept your apology, what in the world are you apologizing for? If that person is not ready to accept your apology right now, then at least you know that you took some accountability. And kudos to you for actually having some self awareness in that moment and realizing that you messed up. You know how hard it is for people to admit that they messed up? They let their pride get in the way of that. We're all human. We're all not going to be perfect or do the right thing all the time, but at least be aware. Saying you're sorry really just means you're also hopefully forgiving yourself for the wrong that you've done. You're holding yourself accountable for the hurt that you've caused. And you're saying to yourself, I don't want to go through this again because this is really damaging me just as much as it's damaging the other person. And I don't want to go through life with that damage. You apologizing is also you letting go and moving on as well. And it's also going to be up to the other person if they want to forgive. So it's really like two sides to it. There's like this gray line when it comes to people pleasing and forgiving. I, of course, have been in situations where I was forced to forgive somebody. So let's say there's like two kids and one hits the other on accident, or maybe not on accident. That kid, will then be forced to apologize. And the other kid who was hit, they'll be forced to forgive. It doesn't really leave room for a genuine connection and understanding of what the other person is going through. That's why, with children, especially, if you're going to force them to forgive each other, at least teach them why it's important. When you teach kids how to forgive and why that is important to them, and when you also teach them why it's important to apologize, I think they'd be more willing to do it on their own terms. And it'll make it easier for them to show some humility and confess when they messed up. That's a lesson for any adult right now who's feeling a little challenged with pride. But if you're people pleasing, you'll never really have any power over your feelings. You never have any power over your emotions because they're being controlled by a narrative of somebody else. It's the worst feeling in the world to feel like you forgiving somebody wasn't even in your control, because that's not the point of forgiveness. Like, forgiveness is something that's your choice. We all go through things, every single last one of us. And I can't sit here and say that it'll be black and white, that forgiveness is going to be this black and white thing. Like, either you forgive them or you don't. But you surely need to be on the right path, some sort of path to forgiveness. And that's in every aspect of your life. Because when you forgive, there's like this sense of self awareness you most likely have at this point, because this person could have lied on you, they could have stole from you, they could have cheated, they could have done a numerous of things, right? But you become the better person when you decide to rise above it all. Rising above something as negative as that is not easy at all, of course. Some people may not even see what goes on behind closed doors with you and your emotions. But when you wake up in the morning, you're like, you know what? Another release happened. I feel better. I'm still working on it, but I'm getting there. When I was a child, I would go to children's church and we will always be taught about forgiveness and how important that is. Because if we don't forgive others, then how do we expect God to forgive us? And I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. If I didn't, I feel like I would be such a different person, because Lord knows things could have been so different for me growing up. With him by my side, I've really been able to get through a lot of situations, and forgiveness has benefited us a lot, because Jesus honestly could have just said, away with y'all, like, seriously. He could have said that, but he has so much in store, and he loved us so much that he died for us. He forgave us. And I just want to live my life in a way where I can grant that grace to others the way he granted it to us. And I know many of you, you don't believe in God, you don't really care for it. But, from a spiritual standpoint, there's a reason why I stand by it. I've seen the fruit of my works. Like, I've seen the fruit that's produced from me following God, following, what He's wanted for me my whole life. And it wasn't easy forgiving. And I've come a long way. And I wouldn't say that I'm perfect or the purest person in the world, but I did try my best to remember that in this life that we are living in, there are going to be tests and trials. Like, we are not going to be lended an easy life. And there are going to be times where people are going to be the reason why we have so much pain. But when you have God on your side, honestly, you're able to get through that, and people won't understand like why you gave this person so much grace. They'll never understand why you were so compassionate and kind to somebody who really wouldn't give you the time of day. And what I say is there's so much more to it than that. It goes deeper than what people think. It's so much more deeper than just being kind to somebody when they've really messed you up. Growing up, I did have a protective childhood. I wouldn't say anything was done wrong to me, but by the time I was a preteen, you would really start seeing things. And there were a lot of people that I had to forgive. And honestly, I'm trying to like push down those negative thoughts about what happened in the past, because those negative thoughts that come up from a past situation, it's really not there to benefit you in any way. So when I think about where I am now, the positive route that I'm heading towards, and I remember what somebody did to me in the past, that thought that's coming into my mind is not there to serve any purpose, but to bring me back into this hole of negativity. And, I look back on my life. This whole podcast has been me looking back on my life and reflecting on the wrong that's happened and the good as well. Yeah, a lot of wrong has been done in my life, for sure. I've had to forgive a lot of adults just for flaws. We all have flaws, of course. And maybe as I've gotten older, I've realized they were just going through a difficult time. That's really what it was. And now that I'm at that age where I understand what they were going through, it's a lot easier for me to forgive and know that that's not how I want to live my life. Though they may have not apologized to me for the wrong that they done, at least I can move on and forgive them and know that this is not how I want to live my life. And that gives me so much peace because I can teach my children this is how you treat people. And it feels really nice to say that. And of course, this is not me telling you to just forget about speaking your mind altogether. I want you to stand up for what you believe in. I want you to tell somebody how they hurt you, verbalize your feelings. Like, that's important too. I wish I could have done more of that growing up, but at least I know now. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You could just walk away because sometimes it's not worth it. It's not. It's not worth it to argue with somebody over how they treat you. You shouldn't have to argue with somebody to treat you right. No, and it could be the other way around. Somebody shouldn't have to argue with you on how you treat them. You need to understand how to treat people right. And I feel like in relationships, sometimes people they want different things and we're not really sure how to compromise because we only have our way of seeing things. But when it comes to forgiveness, when it comes to reconciliation, you have to compromise and realize that compromising does not mean you are forgetting what you really want out of this situation. So yeah, sometimes the toxic people, they show you who they are when things get a little tough. Sometimes it's up to you if you want to keep them in your life or not. If a certain situation just proves to you that you don't really need this person in your life, then like let them go. Wish them well and move on peacefully and quietly. You don't need to make any ruckus. And also, when it comes to forgiving and forgetting, that doesn't mean that things have to be on bad terms. You grow up and you outgrow each other. It's just a part of life. Put your peace first, know what's best for you, and hold yourself accountable. If there is somebody that you need to forgive, I encourage you to slowly but surely reach out to them and kind of see if you guys can talk it out. Because if you have a lot of love for this person and you know you don't want them going anywhere, then like don't waste your time being in this sort of funk with them when it comes to, I mean, who knows what it could be about, but it's not worth it to hold on to that. Because like whether it comes to friendships, romantic relationships, whatever it is, you always want to keep things positive. And it's not that things will always be perfect. Like no, if anything, things aren't perfect all the time. But you want to keep the love going and you want the love to kind of overflow. Nobody wants negativity. Nobody. So reach out to that person. Okay, reach out to them And if you're waiting to hear back from somebody to apologize to them, be patient and work on yourself. If you're already doing the work, baby, that's all. Like, that's it. That's it. But thank you so much for listening to another episode of Everything Grows. I mean, hey, it's been what, 2 months? Yeah, thanks for listening. Make sure to follow Everything Grows on Instagram at Everything Grows Podcast. I will be back from my hiatus, posting a little bit of content on there, so make sure to tune in for that. Also, make sure to tune in next week for the final episode of Everything Grows for season 1. So I will be back next year, and I'll make sure to give all the details in the next episode. But thank you guys so much for listening. Always remember that everything grows in its own time. So take your time with life and everything will be just fine. All right, bye everyone.